Hello once again, YouTube comic book community. As I mentioned in my last video, I'm going to show you my very small Steve Ditko collection. Very small. I'm a big fan of Ditko. I wasn't always a fan of Ditko. At first, I really didn't like his art. I thought it was a little too rough. Wasn't very clean and sleek and pretty. You know, But after a while, doing research on Ditko, reading about him and his work over at the Marvel and whatever. Um, I kind of started to evaluate his art and really, really take a good look at it. And you know, my probably the first few times I really didn't pay much attention to his art. But I eventually did. Like I said, took a second look at his stuff, and probably the first time I really, really appreciated his work was when I had the chance to reread in full color. Amazing Number 33. I say reread in full color because I probably read that story in the those thick essentials that Marvel puts out, the black and white collection, which didn't have very good paper, by the way, so the art doesn't really pop out, and so I pay more attention to the story than to the art. So when I had the chance to reread it in the 100 Greatest Marvels of All Time, which reprinted Amazing Fantasy number 15 as being the number one. Amazing number 33 was number 15 in the countdown. And the cover itself, is great. Because it teases the greatest sequence I have ever seen. This is Ditko at his best. You know, I mean the words themselves. You don't need those. I mean the art says it all. But Stan being Stan, he had to be incredibly wordy. So yeah, and when you see something like that, such a powerful, not only powerful images like like a splash, but a whole sequence where you can feel what Spider-Man's going through. You know, not many artists can do that. It's very rare that you actually get to see sequences like that. You know, in modern comics, probably the that's probably my favorite. Sequence. The second one would be something Neil Adams did for Green Lantern back in the Green Lantern Green Arrow days. And while maybe the Essential wasn't really my first, in fact, it wasn't my first encounter with Ditko. It was this Spider-Man Classics number 15, which reprints with edits, uh, dialogue edits, the first appearance of the Green Goblin, which I believe it has the uh, original cover here in the back. I think, yes, here's a reprint of that very famous cover. As you can see, and I got this probably in the first convention I went to. Could have been the second one. I'm not very sure. I always remember going to one convention, and but I remember, and I kind of confused the memory of the second one with the first one. But I remember going to that second convention, which I got some really great stuff. Anyways, uh, going back to some of the non-reprint material, uh, getting Bronze Age comics, Bronze Age, DC Bronze Age comics, because at my shop, it's when they have when they actually show up, I try to buy all of them because they're so rare for me to find them. I can find a ton, and I mean a ton of Bronze Age Marvel. Maybe not the big titles, but you know that's the minor one. I mean, I used, in fact, uh, even 80s Marvels, show up a lot more than 80s DC. I used to buy Amazing Spider-Man from the 80s and Uncanny X-Men from the 80s, but those are becoming very hard to find, very rare here. And probably the only place I might find them would be going to a convention, and I haven't gone in one in more than 10 years. So, when something like Shade number one pops up, I have to have it. And it's got Steve Ditko uh, trademark on it. I mean, this is, you know, Steve Ditko's creation, like, Hakan Dove was his creation and the Creeper was his creation. Uh, you know, and this comic, I mean, this issue, it's in very great, it's almost near mint, I think it's got a bit of a crease at top here, and it's just a great, you know, looking comic, and the story itself is not bad. It gets me wishing with it makes me wish to get the rest of this short-lived series, and it ended before its time, with the DC implosion. This series just ended way too soon. So, but it makes it easier to collect, and I'm gonna be getting the rest of it, someday soon. I hope. I mean, they're not that expensive. Here's Shade number two. Again, when this popped up, I knew I had to have it, and it's a little bit better than than number one. No creases, and but they're both like maybe near mint. I haven't really seen it. Maybe very good, very fine plus because it's got a little crease here, so you can see it. Because it's in the bag. But very interesting series. And the first time I encountered Shade actually was in a issue I bought of the Suicide Squad from the 1980s, which has been the only issue that's popped up from that series. Okay, so next one up is also in very nice shape. Adventure Comics number 470. Now the cover wasn't done by Ditko. It was done by Russ Andrew and Dick Giordano. But Ditko does Starman, the third Starman that DC published. The second Starman, of course, the first one from the Golden Age, and the second Starman appeared like in one issue of a title called First Issue Special, and it wasn't gonna revive until like the mid 90s by James Robinson for his Starman series, and then reappeared a few years back for the Justice League of America that Robinson wrote. But of course, Starman number one, or Starman, by Paul Levitz, who is credited as the creator, but Steve Ditko is also credited as the designer, and uh, and so that makes him co-creator of Starman. Um, Again, it's a comic. I would love to continue getting more of these adventure comics to try to get the whole story of Starman. You know, and it was a surprise, actually, a very nice surprise, because I think I also did research on this issue before buying it at the shop, and when I discovered it was did go well, I had, to get it. Another issue that surprised me, and I also did research and discovered it had this card, was, the Legion of Superheroes number 272. I took it out of the back because, it got the price tag here from the shop, which is, it cost me 66 pesos, so that's about around $7, maybe a little bit less. And while the cover wasn't done by Ditko, like I said, I discovered that the story itself, was drawn by him. As you can see, greetings by Charamonte. And not only was it drawn by him, this issue, it's also the origin of a character, the character block, the secret origin of block. And so that was a nice surprise. It's not in great condition, but no, I would put it as a fine copy, maybe. Very good plus fine, very fine minus. And that was a nice surprise. I found out it had Ditko art. I love the Legion, and I've been trying to get a lot of back issues, especially from the Baxter series. So when I found out it was doing, he did this issue, well, I just have to get it. So I did research as well as I did with the adventure comic issue, and of course the next time I went to the shop, I bought it. Seeing it was there, and it was an issue that a lot of people ignored. And finally, this is a reprint. This is those 80-page giants that DC decided to revive a bit, going for the old, lost annuals that they did, along with the reprinting the the original, a couple of original annuals. So this is like the lost annual number 1 from 1969, which actually was published in 2001. Of course, this didn't own, Captain Atom and Nightshade. Were Charlton characters. And of course, the issue they reprinted was Captain Atom 85. Again, with really great, Ditko art. I just really, the story itself is really very well written. It doesn't have the verbosity of Stan Lee, or the stiffness of what some DC titles had. Sometimes the dialogues are a bit stiff. But I really love this story, so I'm kind of interested in getting the rest of Captain Atom. Well, that's it for today. I'll be seeing you.